Sometimes in the distant past, possibly between 15 and 25,000 BC, the Earth contained a supercontinent. This continent was islandic in nature, being surrounded by a huge circular channel of water. The inhabitants of this continent had reached such a level of intelligence that they would pass into history as godlike. These super people had almost total control over nature. The land was fertile beyond imagination, and vegetation was thick and lush, a veritable Garden of Eden. The architecture was beautiful beyond belief. There were cities of the appearance of gold. These people were not only in tune with nature here on earth, but were connected and in tune with life within the universe. They were masters of mathematics and astronomy, and they had gone far beyond the age of electronics. They had found an energy source which we are now only beginning to dream of. Throughout their vast continent, at evenly spaced intervals, especially along the 30-degree latitude line, and with their sides squared to the four cardinal points of the compass, exactly north, east, south, and west, they constructed huge pyramid structures which had as their capstone a gigantic crystal. These huge crystals received and refracted the rays from the sun and converted them into energy form. This energy form has neutralized magnetism to levitate masses of stone and metal, send oval-shaped crafts into the distances of space, provided heat and light sources, and to rejuvenate human life to the point that disease was almost unknown. Toward the end of this civilization, the rays were being perfected to the extent that the soul or life force could be separated from the body to travel great distances into space and time. It was this last phase that was the possible undoing of this super race. The unfortunate story of all humanity is the story of power and its misuse. History is covered with stories of great civilizations that rose to grandeur, then became oppressive beyond reasonable limits, only to be brought down to destruction. Within and throughout the universe, mankind is the only element that strikes a discordant note. All else is in perfect harmony. It is only when man begins to upset this harmony by his technology that the Godhead of the universe wreaks his vengeance. Thus it was with this civilization. As its power grew, it challenged and sought to compete with God. Therefore, a fiery comet or other missile was hurled from space, and in an instant, this great civilization and most of mankind went down into the sea. The speed of this disaster can best be seen from a giant elephant that was found frozen in a mountain of ice in the Soviet Union. The elephant's hind legs were broken, and he still had grass in his mouth that he had been in the process of chewing at the time he was hurled into the air and across thousands of miles to be slammed down into the Russian bed of ice. When this cataclysm subsided, the huge continent had been destroyed, and in its place were several smaller continents and two new oceans, the Atlantic and Pacific. Buried beneath these new bodies of waters were the remains of the Earth's most advanced civilization. They still lie there today. Within the heart of the Bermuda Triangle and the Devil's Sea, lying underneath the silent depth of the ocean, are great pyramids with their crystal capstones still in place. For thousands of years these capstones of crystal remained inactive as they were hid from the rays of the sun. However, when the United States exploded the first atomic bombs in the early 40s, and then other countries made similar explosions in later years, radiation levels began to build upon the earth and into the seas. As mentioned earlier, diamonds have the peculiar property of retaining radiation for long periods of time. Thus, as the radiation levels in the seas rose, they began to regenerate the giant crystals lying beneath the sea upon the floor of the ocean. As the radiation levels reached certain potentials in the crystals discharged energy rays into the atmosphere directly above the pyramids beneath the sea. This energy was and is so powerful that it causes the sea in the affected area to roil and a dense mist-like fog to obscure the horizon. It also completely disintegrates any object which comes within the ray's path. Sadly, and too often, this includes ships, planes, and submarines. Obviously, as these vessels approach these areas when the rays are active, all electronic instrumentation is rendered inoperative. This is why most distress signals are cut off in mid-sentence or not at all. One Japanese ship that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, radio operator managed only to say, "It's like a great dagger." All scientists and environmentalists are in agreement that radiation levels in the oceans have reached dangerous levels around the world. Radiation levels are particularly strong in the Bermuda Triangle due to the currents of the Gulf Stream. But of even greater danger to the Earth is that the energizing of these tremendous diamond power sources may well be the cause of the rapidly changing weather conditions and earthquakes. Earthquakes have increased in strength and number during the last 20 years. There are now almost 1,000 earthquakes a year. Tornadoes have jumped from 160 a year to over 600 a year during the last 20 years. In addition, unusual solar activity on the sun in recent times has many observers worried. It was also during the early 40s that UFOs first appeared in great numbers throughout the world. I do not believe that the appearances of UFOs and the first atomic explosion are mere coincidences. UFOs, atomic explosions, and the lost civilization are connected. Many ancient texts describe flying crafts called vimanas, which were shaped exactly like the flying saucers of today. Another story that reaches into antiquity is that this early civilization had great tunnels beneath the earth and sea. There is ample evidence that in the distant past, some ancient people had the ability to carve large tunnels into solid stone with greater precision than we have the ability to accomplish today. It was in such subterranean chambers, many miles beneath the earth, near the core, lava channels, that the super race produced the giant crystals which sat atop their pyramidal towers. Over the years, there have been many sightings of UFOs entering and exiting from the ocean. I believe that these UFOs are controlled by descendants of the lost civilization and are back to keep us under surveillance since we have reached the point in technology where we are on the brink of self-destruction. It is an historical fact that almost all religions in the world talk of heaven or good as being up and hell or bad as being down. The Bible and many other religious documents such as the Egyptian Book of the Dead speak of bottomless pits, demons from the depths, Satan's fiery dungeon, and so forth. In the Bible, in the book of Revelation, St. John is told, "Come up here, and I will show you what will happen in the future." St. John describes it like this, "And instantly I was, in spirit, there in heaven, and saw, oh, the glory of it, a throne, and someone sitting on it. Great burst of light flashed forth from him, as from a glittering diamond. Spread out before it was a shiny crystal sea." Later in Revelation, St. John describes, "Then the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw one who was fallen to earth from heaven, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. When he opened it, smoke poured out as though from some huge furnace, and sun and air was darkened by the smoke." Today, as always, there are scoffers and scorners and disbelievers, but the strange phenomena asserting themselves in the world should not be ignored by thoughtful people. No matter what you believe, a thoughtful consideration of the facts indicate that there are many strange and unexplained forces at work upon the earth today. UFOs and the enigma of the Bermuda Triangle and Devil's Sea are but two. I believe the facts substantiate that they are all interrelated. Thus, I believe that the pyramids, at least many of them, represented a power grid system spread out through the Atlantic continent. If one starts with the Great Pyramid at Giza, then to the Himalayan Pyramid, then the one in the Shenzhen province of China, then to the area of Iwo Jima, and finally to Bermuda, this theory comes into clear focus. Exploration beneath the sea in these areas will reveal a number of great pyramids, some with their diamond capstones still in place. Since we know that diamonds retain, for very long periods of time, dangerous levels of radioactivity when exposed to radiation, the diamond capstones atop the pyramids beneath the seas are being continuously energized. From time to time, they discharge this energy, and any ship, plane, or submarine in the path of this discharge is instantly disintegrated. The ancient Cherokee Indians of North America are the strangest tribes upon the American continent. I believe that the Cherokees are descendants from the lost civilization. The stories of the existence of the universe, as detailed in Cherokee legends, is parallel to those that emanated from the East. The Cherokees often speak in their stories about the God of all the earth. This same phrase is used in Daniel in the Old Testament of the Bible. The God of all the earth. That is really what it's all about. There is an orderly force at work here and a disorderly force, good and evil, if you will. Just as there is harmony in the universe, we should strive for harmony in the human spirit. We were warned by Jesus almost 2,000 years ago with this admonition. When you see Egypt and Israel compacted with armies, and there are wars and rumors of war, and earthquakes and famines in diverse places, and there are strange sights in the sky, behold, the time draweth near. The world is in total ferment at this point in history. At any given time it can explode into total devastation. We have been warned by many prophets down through the ages that in the last times demons will arise in the world and spread fear and terror. Certainly, no observer of modern times can be unaware of the activities and horrors being inflicted by various known and unknown terrorist groups who are bombing, killing, and maiming hundreds of people around the world every day. I believe that love is a force like electricity or atomic energy. I also believe that hate is a force equally strong. These forces are now in mortal combat upon this earth. I believe this so strongly that I have made it my work to spread this message to as many people as I can. The reason that I do this is that if hate should win, the consequences would just be too terrible to imagine. But I know that hate will not win, even though I know that it will be hard to conquer. But in the end, the forces of love shall prevail. The Bermuda Triangle, Devil's Seas, UFOs, and the increase in earthquakes, tornadoes, and turmoil in the world is only the beginning of great earth upheavals. We are upon a fearful road, but beyond tomorrow we have the promise of a bright new age. It is upon that tomorrow that we must not lose sight.